Hi, everybody. This is Nasser Rodriguez with Comic Arts San Antonio, CASA for short, and we're the only convention in San Antonio that focuses on comic book writers and artists. Today, we'll be speaking to Ryan Douglas, aka Creating Comics While Black, who will be at CASA on October 5th. Hey, Ryan, thanks for joining me today.
No, thank you for having me. Thanks for doing these.
No
Really cool
problem.
idea to help promote the event and the artists involved. So very cool.
Yeah, thank you, man. Like I said on Instagram, I really thought like it must be difficult as an artist or writer in Artist Alley that people are walking by your table and you only have a few seconds to kind of get their attention and hope they stop. So, hopefully these interviews help people get to know you a little bit more, so they can know your work a little bit more, and maybe they'll stop by and
Yeah,
pick up.
introduced us to a new audience as well if they're not familiar with us. So that's very cool.
Yeah, definitely, man. So, first of all, let's get started here. Where are you based out of?
San Antonio, Texas, for about 4 or 5 years now.
Oh, okay. Where are you from originally?
Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, lived there for quite some time.
Oh, okay. So what brought you all the way to Texas?
Me and my wife just decided to finally just kind of get out of Ohio, change it up the
Really?
weather atmosphere of things.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I found my comic creative strive when we finally moved down here. I had
Yeah.
been reading comics for like a little bit as well,
Mhm.
like getting back into it. So
Yeah.
it was good stuff. Good stuff.
That's cool, man. And I don't know what like the scenes like in Ohio, but like you moved to an area between San Antonio and Austin stuff. We've got a bunch of independent creators and pros actually in the industry too.
Yeah, that's why I've been trying to. Yeah, even the local artists here, I've been trying to like retweet when I can
Hmm.
and like and share because yeah, there's a lot of us out here, so it's cool to see like within this big city that we at least can promote each other. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Just share each other's stuff, man, so it doesn't get lost in Facebook and Instagram and
Yes,
stuff.
the algorithm battles. It's
Yeah,
a war. It's a
yeah,
war.
exactly, man. All right. So you said you got back into comics. So going even before that, were you a comic reader and a comic fan as a kid?
So as a kid, I always give it up to my brother, who was the older brother, who was the comic reader of the
Mhm.
family, and so I would just kind of page through his, and then getting about I would say 10, 15 years later,
Mhm.
after a while, I really just got back into it as a form of relaxation and relief, just to pass time. And it really became an addiction to catching up on all the backstories, like the Teen
Yeah.
Titans, the Marv Wolfman, George Perez stuff. So
Yeah.
just falling in love with now, like I love the art of them. So now going
Mhm.
back to read their stories and seeing how it really resonates with me. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is good stuff.
Do you remember what some of those were that your brother had laying around that you were reading?
Oh, just about everything, honestly. Everything from heavy metal, Antarctic books, the Ninja High School stuff. A
Oh,
lot of
okay.
Marvel, DC, of course. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, cool, man. So you were exposed to like a whole bunch of different stuff, like
a lot, a
the
lot of
the
manga. I didn't read the manga. I don't read as much manga still to this day.
yeah, yeah.
Definitely not my forte. But yeah, he was big into that as well.
Yeah, I feel
I
like
think
that's a
that thing for
blind.
my geekdom.
Yeah.
It's in blood.
I hear that a lot. Like it's always the older sibling, right? And so either that,
Yeah,
like what I've been finding out in a lot of these interviews, it's either an older sibling or it's like a parent that had them.
parent, yeah, or a friend who might have like an old collection. They rummage up and like, oh, check these out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned manga. Yeah, I feel like that's like a blind spot for me too. Like I didn't really grow up with it and I kind of knew it was around, but like I just really haven't dove into it. There's so much stuff to read that I haven't gotten to
Right.
that part.
Yeah,
So,
I'm always more into like watching the animes, like the old like OVA, like
yeah,
tapes
yeah.
and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that was like the best manga exposure I probably would have had because a lot of the stuff probably was adapted
Yeah, and
from those
interesting that you
stories.
mentioned Ninja High School and Antarctic Press because now you moved to where they're based.
Yeah, I realized that after I was like, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. I realized that I was like, oh, that's very cool. So
Yeah,
I
man.
think they were at CASA last year or
Yeah,
a couple years ago now. I believe that
yeah, they've
was.
been past 2 years.
Okay,
So
very
yeah, we
cool.
always appreciate those guys coming out. So okay, so cool. So you had like a good foundation. You were reading fantasy from heavy metal. You were reading, that American manga stuff like Ninja High School. You were reading superheroes. So what happened? Did you just kind of drop out of it?
Yeah,
Out
just
of
dropped
reading?
out. Played like as going into high school. like we originally lived in Atlanta for the longest time, a little bit as well, before
Hmm.
moving to Ohio.
Yeah.
So before, I think at that point moving to Ohio, ended up just kind of getting into middle school, high school, playing more in bands and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Okay.
So like around a little bit after, I would say a little bit after like around the college years is when I began to get back into the Marvel comics and all that good stuff, reading the
Yeah, that's cool.
backstories,
Yeah, I
and
think
then
that happened.
eventually getting into it, the
Yeah.
current stuff.
Yeah, I think that happens to a lot of us. I think that was kind of my story too. Like you're reading, you're reading, you're reading, and then you're like, oh, well, I got like my first job, or I'm playing sports, or I'm dating now, and stuff like
Right,
that.
you're busy, or you want to do
Yeah,
something
yeah,
else for a little bit.
yeah, exactly. Or your
But it
money's
was
going
good to come
towards
back
other
to it.
stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly, bills and whatnot. But it was good
yeah,
to come back to it, and now like be a writer of it just kind of feels natural in a
yeah.
sense.
What brought you back? Because I remember for me, it was a Civil War when I saw Spider-Man was going to unmask. That like what brought me back. Do you remember what it was for you?
As far as the current story that really brought me back in, I would say DC Rebirth. That
Oh, okay.
was definitely a monumental story because it kind of harkened back to a lot of the 80s and 90s stuff as well, a little bit.
Yeah,
So yeah, then it kind of fell off, unfortunately for me,
yeah,
at that point. And yeah, around after the DC Rebirth period is kind of when I fell off of like the mainstream comics and just got a little bit bored for me.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
decided just to create my own and link up with other people as well and meet new creators.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so now speaking about you as a creator, back then when you were a kid and reading it, even that early, did you know that you wanted to tell your own stories, or were you already like doodling stuff or writing things?
I would doodle like little Power Ranger stuff because
Mhm.
I was always watching the Power Rangers and whatnot. So always drawing the Green Ranger. So
Yeah.
little doodles. Always knew I wanted to tell stories in a
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah.
but I never knew I wanted to tell a comic book story until I would say within the past like almost past a decade. I'd say
Really.
um, it's been a decade in the making, but it finally kicked off within the past 5 years.
Okay. And what was finally that impetus that you were just like, you know what, I'm going to do my own stories?
Yeah, I wish there was like that little blind spot during the pandemic where unfortunately a lot of it's a blur, but there was something in that period that just made me kickstart it because I
Yeah.
had been in touch with the artists as well that I've been working with for a long time doing like podcasting logos for me.
Hmm.
So I already had that connection established, and so I just went into it. I always thought it might be like a really expensive hobby,
Hmm.
but you know you pay for what you get,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so far I've been loving the being able to really be my own manager, my own editor, and
Hmm.
kind of just see my vision out. So it's a really cool thing to be doing.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about comics, man. Like it can be as simple as, a zine with just like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that you fold a few times, or it can be
Yes,
a full-fledged, hardcover graphic novel.
yeah, because I started mostly just doing like digital release. I still release everything digitally.
Hmm.
The only time I will really, if I have to like really print anything is, for instance, the reason I printed the Red Mage anthology
Yeah.
was you invited me to have, well, you accepted my application, I should say, excuse me, to be at CASA 2023, man.
Hmm.
Yeah, 2023, yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I have a reason to print a book, and let's go from there. So
That's
that's kind
awesome.
of yeah where I am when it comes to printing. I actually don't want to put a lot of money into it if I don't have to.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd rather expose, take advantage of the digital world
yeah.
and the fact that reach as many people as I can. But when it comes to the local scene, anytime I do have those opportunities, I definitely want to have a reason to get it into the hands of readers and new readers as well.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, there's the negative parts of social media, the algorithm and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
the some of the great
Just
parts
got to
about it
keep
is that,
pushing.
yeah, some of the great parts of it is that you can build yourself an audience. So,
That's where I find a lot of my artists as well that
really,
I've collabed with is via Twitter and or I think yeah mostly Twitter. I don't think I've really found anyone on well yeah it's hard to say, but mostly on Twitter is where I found most of the artists that I collab with.
that's cool, man. Yeah, I remember like even well, I'm probably older than you, but like back in the day, there was like forums and stuff where we would be posting our stuff and people would be trying to
Okay.
collaborate that way. So
That
it,
way.
yeah,
Yeah, it
so
kind of just evolves,
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
from there. No, that makes sense.
That's cool, man. So as far as creating your own stories, you talk about how you had like these two different eras that you were reading in. And you did mention the Titans and Marv Wolfman. So is Wolfman an influence in your writing, or are there some other influences that you can talk about?
I would definitely say the Wolfman era of Teen Titans is definitely a big inspiration for me. Kind of just telling the sort of slice of life, emotional stories.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of Robotech as well. So
Okay.
kind of the sort of space tales, and then after that, it's really just kind of injecting my own characters that
Okay.
average characters you may not necessarily see every time from in your mainstream books and what have you.
Yeah, yeah.
As well, everything from natural dwarf characters and plus size characters across the
Mhm.
board. So I just
Okay.
wanted to, because I am a dwarf myself as well. So I wanted to be able to express those stories because again, it's very few and far between
Yeah,
that we're
man.
able to really see those stories exposed.
Yeah, definitely. And then, another great thing with like comics that you can put the representation out there of whatever you want, even
Exactly.
things that maybe you're not seeing on other comics or you're not seeing on the movie screen or TV screen, comics, you do it yourself and you put what you want out there. So,
Yeah, it can be very as well. Like for, and I'm sure for new people who might want to get into it, it's like I have to tell this giant 12-page story.
mhm.
I really stick to 1 to 2 page stories
Yeah,
mostly. Most I've done is three,
yeah,
so it's almost like a challenge for myself to see if I can tell a story within those 3 pages, a setup,
that's
middle,
cool,
and
man.
in the end. So that's
Yeah,
kind of where I'm at with that.
that's a
I'm still
good,
learning. I'm
yeah,
still
well,
learning. I'm definitely not a pro at this.
oh, no problem, man. We all start somewhere, right?
Right, right.
But
From
that's a good
A's to anywhere.
exercise.
That's
Yeah, that's a good exercise and like practice for yourself.
right.
Because one thing I noticed, because I've been like going back and reading, like right now I'm in a Spider-Man reread. I'm reading
Okay.
everything from 1963 to current. And one of the things that I've noticed has changed a lot in like modern comics is everything is written for 6 issue story arcs. Back
Right. For the
then, there might
movement
have
basic
been like,
ones.
back then there might have been like, hey, we're just telling this one issue story,
That
and
goes
that's it.
back to the Marv Wolfman, yeah, and George Perez, how they were able to, even if it was like a continuation arc of a story,
Hmm.
they were still able to tell like a one and done within
Yeah,
there to kind of continue it on. So
yeah, yeah.
exactly, sure.
That's awesome, man. So, is there? You talked about DC Rebirth. Is there anything that you're currently reading, or not really?
No, no. Right now, I'm mostly just reading like web comics that come
Okay.
across the sphere. Yeah, as far as the mainstream stuff, I haven't really.
Hmm.
I'm trying to remember like the last mainstream book I may have read that I really like. The last thing I really loved was Jim Zub's The Avengers, the event they did, No Surrender,
Oh,
which was
okay.
really good.
Yeah,
Kill and Be Killed from Edward Baker.
yeah,
Those are some of my influences as well. But yeah,
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 yeah. Pretty much everything Brubaker. I love Brubaker,
yeah,
especially
exactly.
him and Sean Phillips together. They're
Can't
always
go
good.
wrong. You
Yeah,
cannot go
yeah.
wrong.
Cool, man. So let's talk a little bit about your work. So you did mention Red Mage. Can you tell our viewers what that's about?
Yeah, so it's the first book I printed. It collects 3 stories. Has the Red Mage Bowie song, the little short story, including Bowie. It all surrounds, or should let me go back a little bit. Red Mage is the band. And it kind of just follows short stories throughout the lives of these members. So, for instance, we have Bowie song in the first issue, also Dana's song, and then there's a backup just for Amelia, which is her own little web series as well. So yeah, that is collected, and then I can't necessarily announce what I will have at this year's festival, but I will look forward to presenting it very soon. At least the cover, everything will be released digitally. That way, you're able
Okay.
to read everything ahead of time for free. And if you decide to definitely pick up the physical copy, it's usually a limited run as well. So I don't necessarily like to print it again once it has kind of gone out. That's a sort of a special commemoration, or
Yeah.
that word, just to show my appreciation for the support.
Okay. And you did have Red Mage #1 at Casa last year. Will you be bringing that one again this year?
Yeah, I plan to at least be holding back. I believe I have. believe I have 15 issues left, so I'm at least trying to hold on to 10 of those
Okay.
for that event, as I plan to have something brand new.
Oh, okay. And will
Mhm.
that be in the Red Mage like
Yeah,
storyline, or
everything
is
will
that something
still
completely?
be.
Okay.
Yeah, everything will still be in the Red Mage storyline. I at least can tell you it will include Dana Song 2,
Okay.
which is currently out on the Webtoon website, and as well as Gumroad. So just look up Creating Comics While Black on there, or if you're on Instagram, all the links are always on there as well. That way you can
Okay.
kind of get a head start.
Awesome, man. Well, that actually brings us to as we wrap up here a little bit. So, if people wanted
Thank
to,
you.
if people wanted to take a look at the comics, you said you release them free digitally. Where would they go with to see that? And then where would they go? Maybe social media or websites to keep up with you.
Yeah, just to make things easier, if you can always just Google Creating Comics While Black, either Webtoon, Gumroad, or if it's easier, you can just go to Instagram and as well. I have the link tree, which has everything linked there for you as well.
Okay, cool. Well, definitely everybody check that out. Ryan has some great stuff there. And like you said, it's all free online to read it. And then he will be at CASA this year, October 5th at the Marriott Airport San Antonio. So that
It's
way you can
indeed.
pick up so you can pick up a physical copy and get Ryan to sign that for you right there. So Ryan, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for
Oh,
signing
thank
up
you and the
for
whole
CASA
Comics
again.
family. Thank you.
And thank you so much. And we can't wait to see you, and we can't wait to see everybody there at CASA this year. Have a good one,
All right,
Ryan.
take care, everyone. See you soon.